What's up, guys? This is the American Independent Film class. I am Jaquise. Here I have Chris and Xavier. We're going to discuss a couple films, one being The Substance and the other being Whiplash, two incredible American independent films. I'm sure we've all seen it for the most part. Both are Oscar nominees, I believe. So, yeah, let's get into it, man. The first one we want to discuss is The Substance. It's an awesome film, man. Chris, Xavier, how you guys feel about it?
Uh, I don't
You
know if
want
you
to go
want to take it
first?
first, Chris.
I'll go first then. The way I feel about The Substance, I think it's a great movie. It's a very unique movie. Like I don't think there's like another film and that came out that year that like is even remotely the same vibe as that movie. It's kind of out of the norm. The only one that I could think of is like A Different Man, I think it's called, because I've had the name mixed up. Even then, it's mostly just topic,
Mm-hmm.
vibe, or vibe and cinematography wise. I don't think anything comes close to it. Yeah, uniquely well made film, I would say.
I agree with the cinematography part. In particular, there's a couple parts where the guy is eating the shrimp and how
Yeah,
they zoom in on him eating the shrimp. Like that does a lot for a film because it's like, yeah, it's disgusting, but you're like, damn, like this is like really good film. And it's also the same when he was lighting a cigarette. So it really puts you in the vibe. So now I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The film was crazy, first off.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, and I really enjoyed like the underlying message of the film
For sure.
with the fact that like especially in Hollywood, women constantly are, you know, they have like a time limit when it comes to like their age and stuff.
Hmm.
So it's really cool seeing like a movie that touches on that.
That actually goes into our next topic, man. Storytelling. You hit it on the head. When it comes to storytelling, especially with independent films, we have to make sure the message gets across because we don't have the big budget that Warner Brothers will offer, or maybe like a Sony, to where your message doesn't have to be clear. But it's fine because you have action and everything they can make up for it.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, you got to have that storytelling element. You hit it on the head, Xavier, when it comes to putting out that message of how women are in that light when it comes to Hollywood. And they like to say, oh, you only have a time frame of when you can shine. But I'll say, different actors like Meryl Streep may think otherwise, like from having that young face to having I wouldn't say not so young face, but just growing up in the theater as well. We are able to see that and appreciate that. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and one thing that the movie does such a great job is that a lot of times when situations like that happen, the main character of the movie, for example, she doesn't blame like the system of Hollywood.
Hmm.
She blames herself. So she's like, "Oh, how can I fix myself to, be part of the system?" But in reality, it's just Hollywood that's messed up.
It is. It's Hollywood.
Yeah, and it sucks 'cause a lot of people blame themselves for that, and it's like, no, it's not your fault.
It's an ongoing thing with Hollywood, man.
it's like because it's also like in a meta way, also kind of reveling. Because like Demi Moore is kind of like she used to be a big star, and like she's not. You don't really know much of her anymore before this movie, and like so that's kind of like playing into that of her casting and the casting of Margaret Qualley because Margaret is like kind of the opposite of her right now
Hmm.
because she's like on a complete rise and she's like this new young star in comparison. So I think they kind of played into that with her casting.
I'm glad you mentioned that, man, because I think a lot of people like who don't know about Demi Moore will just look at the film and they will still appreciate it. But to your point, Chris, you hit it on the head, man. Demi Moore was at one point in time like everyone knew, especially when she was with what's his name,
Um, oh, I forgot he was in
Die Hard, I believe.
yeah.
Like the
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis. Yeah, so when her and Bruce Willis was like a thing, they were like the top, Hollywood's greatest couple. And she personally experienced being the top and getting that push along, okay, now we have to find like a new, younger and harder cast. So I really appreciate the casting directors for actually reaching out to Demi Moore for this because I don't think there's another character that can play that role better than she could.
I agree.
What do you guys like most about the film?
There was a lot
Yeah,
to like about the film. Like I said, my favorite part was the underlying message of it.
Hmm.
The blood work and all that was phenomenal. Like,
Forgot about that
yeah,
cheese.
I was so good for like just all that stuff, and it's just like there's moments where I'm just like, oh my god, especially that scene where in the apartment where she was just stuffing her face with food. I was like, that's so disgusting.
like tense on you. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
What's yours, Chris? Your favorite part?
I think it's between a mix of like the pacing and the cinematography.
Mm.
The pacing is so well done. It's like constantly going and ramping up until you get to like more ludicrous stuff. Like what Xavier mentioned with the scene where she's eating all the food, and you think that's like the craziest part yet, and then it gets worse somehow,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my god, what is going on? And
It's
then
the
the
pacing.
cinematography, yeah, is obviously amazing, and that actually helps to add to that because of how like crazy it's shot and framed.
I have to say my favorite part is definitely the pacing as well. It's like once you're in it, you're in it. There was never a moment to where you were able to sit back and go like, okay, this is a slow down moment. Like once it clicked from the very beginning, it hit it from the head, from the guy using the restroom, and she was in the back and she overheard the conversation. From that very beginning to where it hit a major like turn, and that's going to lead to like our next topic, like what we didn't care for so much. I wouldn't say I hate it, but just like that turn in the movie when she was just trying to put herself together and it just became like that blob, and I'm like, hold on, am I still watching The Substance? So it's like it became a whole different movie to me. Like, and she starts spitting blood all in the crowd, like completely different movie. So I wouldn't say I hate it, but it was more something like, maybe personally I would do something a bit different. But I mean, they're Oscar nominated, so obviously they done something right.
Yeah, I agree. The ending was a little like out there. It was especially that like you mentioned that scene where like just blood's being splurted all over. I felt like they just did that for fun. Like, yo, let's just do that.
Right? I was like, bro,
Why
what are
not?
we watching?
Very comedic.
Yeah, it started off like so like I mean it ended it back to where it started, but just how everything seemed like a level and a level and a level. And then it came to a point to where like, okay guys, we gotta kinda end this movie. Like what can we do? Let's
Yeah.
just like spit blood on everybody and
What's the
then
craziest big thing we can do right now?
Yeah, it kind of felt like they didn't know how to end it, so they're just like,
I said the same. Literally, I feel like it was going well, and then it said, "Okay, guys, we have to end this movie sometime." Like, and I
yeah,
think there were already like a few, maybe like over an hour or so deep, and we didn't know like what was going to happen. Like, there was no like maybe like the she goes back to her original version, or maybe this was all a dream, or maybe the young girl overtakes. But like, I mean, what better way to end it than just spitting blood on everybody?
yeah.
So, question like, how will we create our own version of an indie film post this class in relation to the substance? Like, what can we take from the substance that we can add in our own production?
Feel like the marketing of it is very well done. Like it has like very striking like visuals and like iconic scenes in the iconography. Like the
Mm-hmm.
substance itself is very like you know of it as soon as it like pops into your head. You know the movie and you know the kind of like experience that they draw out because of the way they market everything and they've done everything. I think it's how I can explain. I feel like.
It's the same. I'll take away the visuals. I like the visuals and the pace as well, because one thing for me as a viewer, I sat up the entire time, and that's something I will want my viewers to do whenever they're watching a film of mine. I want them to be engaged and, cover their eyes or maybe like jump or something like that. Whenever you're striking that kind of emotion within your viewer, you have to be doing something good.
Yeah, I would take away. I always love stories with like a great message towards it. So I feel like a lot of the problem that Hollywood has nowadays is that it's fine to make movies for fun, but I feel like you could also make a fun movie while also having like a message to it.
Hell yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like to bash on like the MCU and stuff, but like for example, I love the Guardians movies. And they tell a great message of like the importance of family and like a found family, you know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true,
And
man.
yeah, so like I feel like people don't realize the potential of like just a story with like a good message could just like enhance it so much.
Man, you're actually right, and I'm glad you mentioned the MCU universe, because another movie I thought about was the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah.
And a lot of those times, those movies are like explosion all out of the place, so the Rock can just like lift the car, just throw it across the
Yeah.
street, something like that. But like the whole underlying message, Dom has to say family like 10 times in the movie. So like, yeah, that's like the underlying message. Like he hammers that in your head. So,
Yeah.
and what I like about the way how he says family is not necessarily like your blood. Like they have family with like, Ludacris, who's a tech guy, and Tyrese, who's an ex-con, and Brian, God bless his soul for whatever it was he was doing. Well, he was a cop, right? Yeah, he was a cop. And then Letty and everyone else with their own personal lives. They weren't like they didn't have the same mom or whatever, but at the end of the day, they sat together at the end of the movie. Dom would throw out the word family, and then everyone would have that heartfelt message in it. So, nah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely with you on that, man.
I think like tying it to the substance with that, those movies are also kind of like equally. They kind of start out pretty normal, and then they kind of just get kind of ridiculous towards
Yeah.
the later half. Like they do some wild stuff there. Like
They do, man. But it's like you gotta have the crazy with the norm.
yeah,
It's what gives us that balance. Like we can't all be looking at a movie and then every movie has like that. I think that's why Netflix blew up the way it did, because Netflix is okay with like, hey guys, here's a movie. You want a love movie? Here's a love movie. You want action movie? The action isn't gonna make any sense, but like, it's gonna have your heart pounding. So I think that's the premises Netflix stands on, while they have such a huge catalog. And I think that's the beauty of making films as well, just to be able to bring so many different things to the tables. But man, I think that's it, man. Unless you guys have anything else regarding the substance.
it's great that like a movie like that, that's like it wasn't even distributed by anyone big. It's like I don't even know who distributed it. It was like Movie, I think it was called, which is like this other independent service.
Uh-huh.
So this like totally independent movie kind of blew up the way it did and got Oscar nominated. I feel like that's a big like deal for us as like aspiring filmmakers who want to make independent stuff like that.
And film festivals are very important. I think we're going to hit into that a bit more in our next episode when we talk about Whiplash, because Whiplash started off as a film festival. And to your point, Chris, they were bought, if I'm not mistaken, by Sony or one of those. I have to look that up to confirm it, but they started off as an independent film, but because they were blown up, Sony ended up distributing it. So we'll talk about that in the next episode.
Yeah.
All right, guys, checking out now.